Okay, boom. What's happening, everybody? We're live. So I'm excited today because we have Melissa on the show. Am I getting echo there, Melissa?
A little bit.
Yeah, that's annoying. We'll just wait a couple of seconds, see if we can get some people on.
Yeah.
Why is my thing echoing like that?
Oh,
What were you going to say?
no, I'm just trying to figure out how to share this because it's in your group.
If you go to my Real Drug
your
Talk page,
page.
you
Yeah.
should be able to share it.
Okay. Oh,
Has
yeah.
that fixed the echo? It has. Thank goodness for that. Okay. What's happening, everybody watching? Can you put in the comments where you're watching from and let us know? That'd be awesome. So welcome to the show. This is our second live crack at it. And we've got Melissa today. Am I echoing or is that just in my ears?
You're echoing a little bit, yeah. But
it's not sounding like I'm coming through twice?
No.
Okay,
it's
cool.
fine.
Okay, so yeah, we've got Melissa from the Center of Healing on with us today, which is really cool and I'm very excited about. Now, for everybody watching, again, we're doing this live again, and this is like a new experiment for us. So we would appreciate it if you just bear with us a little bit because things could go wrong here. But we did this before the show. So today we're going to be talking about a bunch of stuff. And that's actually very helpful, Jen, on LinkedIn. It doesn't sound like an echo here. So it's obviously just the latency in my ears. Now, for everyone watching, we're going to be talking to Melissa about like addiction and healing and lots of different stuff. But if you have any questions or comments during the show, please just drop them in wherever you are, and I can see the comments and we'll put them up on screen and answer them as we're going, which will be pretty cool. But nevertheless, how you going, Melissa?
I'm good. I'm excited. Yeah, excited to be here.
I'm calling you Melissa like a parent. That's probably not what I call you.
Am I in trouble?
Mel.
That's so funny because, like, with our son, we named him Tommy. Like, that's his official name, but I've been calling him Thomas. Like, that's like reverse nickname, isn't it?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
That's right. So, do you want to tell us? This is obviously Real Drug Talk. Do you want to tell us what brings you onto the show?
Well, I think you wanted me to talk about my book a little bit.
100%.
Yep. Which I wrote because we had our addiction and mental health clinic for about 4.5 years in Melbourne. Yep. And when we transitioned and moved our business online and kind of changed our business to train other practitioners, then I'm like, I feel bad. I'm like, we're not actually helping addicts anymore with like all the things that we learned in overcoming our own addictions. And we're not, yeah. So I'm like, I already had started writing. I'm like, I need to finish it and just get it out there to help people. So there's that. And obviously my story of overcoming my addiction and everything. And hopefully that helps other people. Yeah.
Love it. Love it. So just before we jump in and I ask you about your story, so for everybody watching, just again, we've got this working. Can you, if you have any questions or comments as we're chatting, drop it in the comments box. It'd be cool to have you comment now and tell us where you're watching from, just so we get a bit of an idea. But did you want to tell us your three-minute snapshot origin story, Mel? How did you get into the healing space and, all of that stuff?
3 minutes? Jeez. Okay. So basically, I went through a little bit of trauma growing up, well, quite a bit. That
Yep.
turned into me being a real kind of rebel and started using drugs when I was about 14.
Yep.
And I kept making, obviously, really bad decisions. And then I got to the point where my whole life collapsed. I think I would have been 25 or 26. And I'm like, I need to go get help. I can't actually, like, what I'm doing is not working and my whole life is shit. and
Yep.
then well, these drugs and stuff aren't working. And so then I went and got help. And then when I went and got help, I was like, this is amazing. And then I went and studied it. And then after I studied it, 2 weeks later, I resigned from my job and started helping people. I just jumped
Yep.
off the cliff. I'm like, this is how you overcome your shit, and I'm going to help other people. So that would be like 6 years ago now. And then
Amazing.
I met Ryan, helped him overcome his ice addiction. And then we opened a healing center together.
Yeah. So interesting. Now, you're the first person in history when I've asked a 3-minute version that they've stuck to it.
Okay.
So,
Awesome.
so obviously, one of the biggest things that I wanted to talk to you about today was the trauma stuff,
Mm-hmm.
because it's super interesting to listen to you and Ryan speak about it, and I guess it's not probably in the stereotypical way of treatment and therapy that you approach it and deal with it.
Mm-hmm.
So how did you kind of go on that process in your own story that was what was behind your addiction?
Yeah. So once I started healing myself, I started realizing that I was, instead of being a victim to the world, I actually had created all the shit in my life.
Yep.
And then I kind of got to the question of like, how did I, or why did I create all this shit in my life, or why am I so insecure, kind of thing. And then I was able to overcome my major addictions, like through personal development and some like kind of surface level talk therapy and stuff like that.
Yep.
But when it came to actually, I remember actually Ryan did the healing on me. So funny enough, we like really healed each other. The start,
Wow.
because I was training him and I got him to practice on me, chuck him in the
Yeah.
deep end. And so, I mean, I thought I got rid of my addictions, my like drug ones, but I still had like shopping, sex, like other ones, right? So that I wasn't realizing, food, whatever. So he did a healing on me and it was actually sexual trauma. Now that is so, sexual trauma is like, Dr. Gabor Mate says it increases addiction by like 4,000%, right?
Yep.
And so when you go and when we do a healing on someone, a trauma healing, we take them to the root cause of their current addiction. And that one came up for me. Actually, a past life came up, but the one that happened in this life flashed up on the way back, which is like how we do it. Basically, it shows you either all the other times that trauma has happened, so PTSD, or it shows you the behaviors that you've had because of that original trauma. So because of that original trauma, I just got all these flashbacks of me just being really reckless and promiscuous and all this stuff because of that.
Yep.
Original trauma. Now, usually it's not just one trauma that's like causing addictions, but there can be like very substantial traumas that can cause like addiction. So yeah, once I did that, I was like, firstly, there's a grieving process for all the years that you've lost trying to cope with this underlying trauma that you think that doesn't affect you anymore, but it does. And then
Yep.
you're grieving your innocence and your behaviors that you've done because of it. So there's
Yep.
like, we call it like a dark night of the soul, basically. And you're grieving parts of your identity and who you are. And so if you let yourself feel all that and go through it, the other side is amazing. And I had huge awakenings and I just don't stop healing. I was just telling you before the call, I'm doing it in my sleep now. So yeah.
Love it. So
Is that
can
what you
you touch?
asked? Sorry, I kind of went on a tangent.
No, 100%. And we'll just kind of do this as a conversation style. I hate
Yeah.
set questions. I just like kind of going wherever it goes.
Yeah,
But
that's sweet.
but the one thing that I'd love to ask you about, if you could just explain a little bit, is kind of your story with drugs, just so people can relate to it. Because
Oh, of
I've seen a lot
course,
of
yeah.
stuff from the Center of Healing online. I'm sure a lot of people have, but a
Mhm.
lot of it is Ryan's story, and I feel like I
Right?
haven't
Yeah. I
try and
kind of
hijack.
lurk in the background. I'm, like, on the computer. I'm just, like, lurking in the shadows, and Ryan's, like, the show pony at the front because he just, he's so photogenic and everything, and he's so good at speaking and everything, and he just loves it, so that's what it's always been like. But, yeah, I do have my own drug story. So, yeah, from this trauma that happened when I was, like, 14, and plus, like, there was, like, it was really toxic at home. There was domestic violence and all this stuff going on. So what do we do when we're 14 and we don't want to be at home? We go to the streets.
Yep.
So I wasn't living on the streets, but I was like, there a lot. And my mum was going through so much that she just kind of like just dropped me off at the, Baronia train station if I wanted to, whatever. But basically, basically, I just started like hanging around with people that took drugs. I started smoking weed. Like I went to a private girls' school, and I would rock up to class like off my head. When
Wow.
the teachers would be pulling me out of class, and being like, "Why are you like? Are you okay? Why are you laughing so much?" And like, what's going on, kind of thing. I got suspended like 3 or 4 times. I would
Yep.
steal stuff all the time. I would do like stupid stuff. Like we would just rip stuff off the trains and put it in our lockers. Like I don't know why, or just go steal stuff from Maya or whatever. I hope the cops aren't listening. That was years
Yep.
ago. And then so obviously it started with like for me marijuana, and then that kind
Yep.
of went on to I did change friends because I had to sign my exit forms. They were about to expel me because I wagged 50% of year 9 and 10 and failed because I
Yep.
was just not at school. And then that was like a wake up call for me. And I'm like, oh shit, I better get my shit together. I got a new group of friends, and I actually finished VCE. But then as soon as we all got our license and stuff, I was going out to like Chapel Street. We were on Eckies all the time. I was like ripping like 20 bongs and like driving like and freaking out that there's like ghosts running along the road. Because back then
Yep.
there was no drug testing when you drove.
Yeah.
So I think I rode off a couple of cars, like, and then obviously, like, you just dabble in whatever's going, there's coke
Mm.
or whatever. So I wouldn't say that I was like full blown 24/7 addict, because it was more so I would work during the week.
Yep.
And I studied international business. I did sleep through half of it.
Yeah.
But I did pass somehow because I had a good group of friends who all helped each other. And I did like business, so that helped. But yeah, then I would just every weekend was just a write off, and obviously like festivals, and that's like the culture in Melbourne, I feel like, as well. Like,
Mm.
like it's just like, especially around that age. And so I would be doing things, and I would see like innocent people and people that were like being like responsible, and be like, why are they so boring? Why don't they come party? Like, we build this identity, and our ego like makes us think that we're like better than other people, even though we're like fully ashamed that we can't have fun without using drugs, or like
Yep.
that I actually have social anxiety. So I didn't even know that I had anxiety, and I would like have to always drink to be around people and smoke and everything.
Yep.
So I didn't even know that I had anxiety. Like, that was major. Like, I was self-medicating to like try and have fun and cover up my insecurities. I had
Yep.
no idea. I never got educated on that. I thought everyone just felt how I felt. Like, when I think back, I'm like, that's crazy. Like,
Yeah.
oh, yeah. So Anyway, and then I, was, obviously jumping around relationships because I'd had no, like, I was so insecure. I didn't know I was insecure on the outside. Like, I bought a house and I had sports cars and everything, and everyone, and a job and everything, but I fucking like hated my life. But the
Oh,
usual story. Yeah, I bought my first house and I was 21, and then just sabotaged it all and like lost it. And then I got
wow.
back. Then I got with my ex. I got back with him. He was like abusive, but I got back with him, of course.
Yep.
And then because I didn't even know I had trauma issues and patterns that I was recreating from my childhood. Didn't have any awareness of that. I was just living, I was just trying to be happy moment to moment. How can I be the most happy? Just living off that, which is a
Yep.
massive mistake that we make, which is like why half of us become addicted, because we're told that we're meant to be happy all the time. And if you're not, there's something wrong with you. So we try and skip the bad shit. Right. And we're just trying to feel good all the time and just chasing the highs. And hence the book, The Natural High. You need to
Yep.
like, and what we do in our healings is like, you need to fucking sit with that pain and dive into it and learn from it. Like, if I actually listened to my emotions, I could have actually adjusted it as I was going rather than just chasing being happy. Anyway, with my ex, and he had, the Lambo and all that. And like, then we started having heroin and all of that, and he knew that I liked weed, and he started cutting me off from all my friends and family again. And then I like had an affair with someone. I was having cocaine with them on the weekend
Yep.
and wine, and then coming home and having heroin. Like, it was just getting a little bit out of control. And then I'm like, that's it.
Just a little
Like,
bit.
yeah. And then so I had bought a house with him, and then I was with this other guy who I thought was like amazing, and he was all into personal development and stuff and bettering himself. And I'm like, oh, that's so cool. Like, I was really inspired by that. And
Mhm.
so when I moved out and went to live on my own, the day that I moved out, that other guy's like, nah, I can't do this. I'm like, what
Yep.
the fuck? So I'm like fully on my own, like just
Oh,
like, what the fuck? And that was that moment where I'm like, I can't, there's something wrong here. Like, I got a
yep.
beautiful beachfront apartment and I was sitting there, like, just sculling red wine, just like absolute wreck, just heartbroken, didn't know what the fuck was going on, or why my life had gotten to that point, and
Yeah.
my neighbors, of course, I was using drugs. I had a full like psychotic episode because I accidentally ripped a bong that had fake weed in it, but they
Yep.
didn't tell me. And I full like blacked out, and then I'm like, I lost my past and my future. Anyway, it was like crazy, and I'm like, what the hell am I doing? Like, anyway, that's yeah.
Well,
And then
no,
and then I went and got help. Yeah, then after all
yeah,
that.
it's interesting, like just listening to your story because I guess that's one of the reasons why we wanted to stream it live into like LinkedIn and stuff like that. Like people think, oh, that doesn't really make sense. Why would you be talking about this on LinkedIn? And we're on a few other channels, but
Mm.
because when we talk to people like you, it just like smashes the stereotype of addiction. On paper, by the sound of it, if you looked at your life, you would think
Yeah,
amazing. That's what
yeah,
everybody wants. But really, like as you said, you were kind of slowly dying inside, and you had all this crazy stuff going on.
yeah, totally. Yeah.
So when you're in that pattern and you're in that relationship, you're with those people that had Lambos and all that stuff. How common is like addiction and different stuff in those circles? Is it more common than people think?
Yeah, I mean, oh my god, the amount of people that I've met that are like do like coke and that on the weekend and think nothing of it is like
Yeah.
crazy. It's like, do you realize that you're using like a drug? Do you realize that you can't have fun without it? It's like, are you not actually like, do you realize like you're having Xanax or Valiums like every second day or whatever?
Mm.
Like, are you, and the ego and the identity is like, oh nah, like it's cool, like I'm in full control of this. You are not in full control of it. I remember times even when I was like transitioning jobs and I was like, I can either buy food here or buy ciggies and wine. And
Yeah.
I'd, and so to look at me, I'm in an Audi in a beachfront apartment,
Yeah.
and all my money is going to trying to soothe myself. you know? So looks can be so deceiving. It is so common, and those people that you think are living this awesome life and going to parties, half the time they need cocaine for confidence. I say cocaine is for confidence, or they need some kind of drug to help them feel okay for a bit, and that's why they work 50 hours a week, you know? So these people on that level, it's like everyone is on the same kind of level. Like you don't really understand that at the core we all have the same needs. We all just want to feel like loved. We all want to just feel okay, and that's all that we're chasing, you know. And sometimes it can be like you know, people from that take different drugs even project their shame. So like, I'm an ice addict, but at least I'm not a heroin addict, you know. I'm a this addict, but at least I'm not a that addict. And there's like all this like justification bullshit. It's like, dude, like, I don't even care if your drug is like you're addicted to food. Like, who cares about that? It's like, why are you not comfortable like sitting in your body in the present moment and conversing with people? I think that's the question. Anyway, I went on a tangent there, but
I love it.
Doesn't discriminate.
I love it 100%. And you can still hear me, right?
Yeah. Am I okay?
Yeah, you're okay. Sorry, I just I'm messing around with the technology again. Everyone listening, this is a new thing where we're doing the lives, and Mel's supporting me through it. No, but it's it's so interesting that, you know, you say that, because I've had the same experience with myself and with everybody else. When you strip it all back, it's all just got to do with that inability to kind of live in your own skin and feel worthwhile and be happy being you and all that kind of stuff. So, like, how did you make that transition from that life to getting help? So obviously you had what sounds like a bit of that rock bottom experience.
Classic rock bottom.
That's right. Did you make a transition into like normal therapy styles from there, or did you go kind of straight into similar work that you do now?
Yeah, so it's actually my friend who was in Thailand at the time. He's here now. He's a DJ here, but I know him from, like, he used to be in Melbourne. He like popped over to my place, and I'm like, this is happening. He's like, you should go see my friend, like, he does this and that. You've met him at parties. I'm like, okay. And it's kind of similar to the work that I do now with people, what he did with me. So I'm always grateful for that. So yeah, that first kind of, that woke me up. And as soon as I had that initial awakening, I all of a sudden started loving myself more. Reality looked different, and I already started making changes. So from that, I started going really hard into personal development, and my friends, my neighbors, all of a sudden they couldn't get access to me because I locked myself in my apartment and I was just reading and I was just researching, and I cut off like so many people so quickly. That can be hard for people. That's one of the hardest parts with addiction, is especially if you're lonely, part of the addiction is that having that the friends within the addiction, or friends, you know, that did it with you. So yeah, I immediately my focus was like totally different. And so that there was just that initial session, and that's kind of like what happened, Ryan's experience with me as well, where he had that session, and then he had that immediate awakening, and he immediately, you know, you guys probably know his story, so I don't know if I should repeat it.
No. And it's good. Well, and if everyone wants to listen to that, you can head to the podcast. It's only a couple of episodes ago that we spoke to Ryan, who runs the Center of Healing with Mel now. I don't know if you guys, we'll get into that in a second, what you guys do now, but I find that really interesting because it's kind of a different experience to the narrative of what, you know, addiction treatment is like, which is you got to go to rehab for 90 days or a year. In some cases, it's going to be a long, hard, arduous task. But in both yours and Ryan's story, you know, you kind of, not like you were fixed all in one session, but yeah,
No,
like you
no.
said, you had that awakening straight away, and
Yeah,
it didn't have to be this life sentence kind of thing.
that's right. And
What do you think that is? Yeah.
what I think it is the natural answer to what we've been seeking.
Yeah.
Is there some relief and going? It's like this thing switches in you where you go from victim mode to empowered mode.
Yeah.
You know, and it's not in like awakenings, like enlightenment, like the Buddha. Like that's a whole like different kind of journey that takes a whole lifetime. But
Yeah.
it was just that switch from like everything is happening to me. I'm a victim of this, and I'm going to be controlled by my emotions, you know, and my thoughts are me. To holy shit, I create my reality. My thoughts aren't me. They're just
Yep.
coming out of my subconscious. I'm now conscious of my subconscious, which is where my behaviors come from. And now I actually have some responsibility and control of my behaviors, awareness. Because before I would have that thought like, I need to have a joint. I need to have a joint. And because I thought my thoughts were me, I would go and do whatever I could to get that joint. But when you awaken and all of a sudden you realize that that thought isn't me, I would watch that thought and go, oh, my brain's saying it wants a joint. I wonder why I'm not feeling peaceful right now, and dive into that. And then all of a sudden it's like you're not going for that joint. All of a sudden you're going, oh, what is currently getting triggered, or what's my current circumstance of why I'm trying to escape the now.
Yeah.
Why I don't feel comfortable in the now. That's the click over, I think. Yeah.
I love that. I love that explanation. So, and I want to go a little bit more into that and get your perspectives around the subconscious and all that sort of stuff. But what actually happened in that first session that facilitated that? Like, what did you do to actually come to that realization?
So it's similar what I did with Ryan and what we do with people now is we explain that kind of you're at the cause of your life or the effect of your life, and getting people out of victim mode, and then having them realize that their emotions and their thoughts aren't them, but the actual work that you do is you actually consciously dive into your subconscious, and you're actually asking the subconscious to take you to the root cause of your pain that you're not unable to sit with right now, your flashbacks and uncomfortable feelings. And because I thought my past was just in my past and that was it, and it wasn't affecting me anymore. It's like 70% in control of your life. What has happened in your past, especially ages 0 to 7, is like literally how you will continue to run your life with those patterns. So consciously, it's like getting a torch and going and like really investigating, like, why do I do this? Because you know how you go, why the fuck do I do that? I don't know why I do that. Fuck it, let's do it. Like that kind of, then this allows you to go and find out this is exactly why you do this. And you're like, oh shit. All right. All right. And then with that realization and that consciousness, you can let it go. So, and it's not just things like, why do I take drugs? It's like, why do I feel anxious when I'm alone? So I need to take drugs. And you're asking the subconscious, okay, the subconscious is showing me a memory of when I was 3 and when I was left at the daycare center and I didn't know anyone was going to come back or not. And that anxiety is still in my nervous system and still getting triggered. And so when I'm on my own now, I freak out and I need to have some wine to calm down. Like, it's like, becoming conscious of the unconscious and the subconscious.
And do you find that people have it's so interesting. Do you find that people, or did you, it sounds like you didn't, but do you find that people have, for whatever it is, like cultural kind of narratives, do you find people have like resistance to that, like to thinking, you know, that asking their subconscious, you know, doing all that stuff and things could be connected to when they're 3 and, you know, all that stuff. Do you find that people have resistance towards that approach?
The only people that I've found over like the last 6 years that have had resistance are Christians because they're taught to not do anything that is anything like hypnosis or meditation.
Yeah.
But other than that, absolutely no resistance. When we had the healing center, if people are coming in to do an addiction program, like they're like, I'm ready to heal. I'm ready to do this. We already call on our past memories on some level. Sometimes we actually get flashbacks. You'll think of something from 10 years ago and be like, oh, like it's
Yeah.
already doing it. So it's all it is helping the client to get a little bit deeper. And it's just like, do you know what? People's subconsciouses or their soul are so freaking excited to finally do it that it just jumps us to things so quickly straight away and starts healing stuff because it's so excited. It sounds weird to say it's separate than you, but like their soul is like so like ready to do it because they've been struggling for years trying to do it on their own.
Yeah, yeah. And this is like I find this stuff so interesting, and I try and keep an open mind. And when you talk about it, I reckon, I am, as you know, like I'm already kind of converted to a lot of this stuff. I believe in it
Yeah.
and all that stuff. But I guess, and it's what we're trying to do with the show. We're just trying to bring all the different aspects in. There's lots of people that would be watching this going,
yeah, okay, I forget about the people watching.
bullshit, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
and I know that it's like for you, it's probably not about going and converting people. You just want to work with people that want help. But what do you sort of say to those people? Like, have you found in your treatment practices, there's like people that have done traditional kind of therapies for years and then come and do this, and then they kind of find that they get so much relief out of it. Yeah, like what's been your experience with that?
Mainly that, because most people have gone through the system of just talk therapy. Talk therapy is good. Like we do it for half of our session, but talk therapy isn't going to go deep enough to find out. You can make assumptions through talk therapy about why you do what you do. You can't, we're very emotions focused. So we believe that the strong emotions create your behavior. So if you're feeling really shit, you're more likely to go and relapse and stuff like that, or like majorly triggered. So mostly we had people that would come like exactly what you said. They've gone through the system, it didn't work, and then they've come to see us and like, wow, that's amazing. On the flip side, a lot of people with addiction are seeking a spiritual connection anyway, or into DMT, or have had like and I've done that a few times, and have had like this like spiritual experience, but they haven't. It's like they need the drug again to do it, and they're like, I should be able to access this connection on my own. So people like see that we're like kind of spiritual, and they're like, okay, that sounds cool. That sounds different. I need something a bit deeper. And I say to people, this work is intense. Like, I'm not going to lie. And people are like, I need that. I need something intense, because someone telling you just to do your best and just to reduce harms and stuff, that's not enough sometimes. You know what I mean? Or so I don't know. Hopefully that answers your question.
No, it does. It does.
Yeah.
It's great. It's highly interesting to talk about. And for people watching, would love for you to like drop in your experiences in the comments.
Yeah.
And ask any questions that you have as we're talking about this stuff. But like I do find it interesting that that sort of deeper stuff that goes on. I come from a sporting background, right? And I was talking to Ryan about this the other day.
I'm moving spots. Sorry, I've got to plug in my computer. Yep.
It's okay. I was talking to Ryan about this the other day, but coming from the sporting background, I've always been really interested in, and this is from a performance level, it's not healing, but like where athletes and stuff, they'll train and get so physically fit that, they can run for ages or whatever. But there's always a point where someone gets like really tired, right? But for some reason, after all that training, when they get to like the grand final and they really want to win, and it gets down to like the last 5 minutes, and you know, there's like everybody's run half a marathon, they're so tired, but somehow some people have this ability to kind of tap into something extra, and it kind of comes out of like you take it away from the rational mind, and you know, you listen to athletes talk about it and stuff. It's amazing. Like they tap into something extra, and it just gives them this extra energy and this ability to kind of push through pain or whatever. And again, I know that's not healing, but when I listen to you kind of speak about it, that's what it reminds me of. It's kind of, yeah, like tapping into that part of you that isn't in your rational conscious mind, and being able to go a little bit deeper with stuff, and bring it from a place of emotion. Do you find that, like, have you worked with people that have had, you know, things like PTSD and stuff like that, and they're really like having extreme flashbacks and all that stuff, and they've been able to change it? And like, what's the process? Did you go through some of that stuff with your trauma that you had?
I am of. Can you hear me? Okay.
I can hear you. Yeah.
Okay, cool. I'm of the belief that everyone has PTSD, and that's going to sound like really out there, because when I say trauma, people think, oh, car accident, like major things, right?
Yeah.
But in our experience and just doing thousands of sessions, trauma can be like little things as well. We just call it trauma because it's easier, but it's painful like experiences. And a lot of us get flashbacks day to day. Like, tell me if I'm wrong, like when you're having a shower or doing something unconscious, which is like when we kind of tap into that area, having a shower, half awake, half asleep, some driving, doing something unconscious, all of a sudden we've opened that gate and people will start getting flashbacks, often of uncomfortable experiences. And so I mean, you guys comment below if you get that. Like, 95% of people are going to get that. So that's an example of PTSD. But someone that's labeled with PTSD, maybe they have it at an extreme level because they had very like fear-driven, traumatic, ongoing bad experiences, or very huge experience that they haven't been able to finish processing. So that's all we do, is we're going back and healing those traumas, because a piece of you is still stuck back there. You know, if you have like your parents split up when you were 13, you know, when you then go through a breakup when you're older, your body remembers that your parents splitting up when you were 13, and you cry like a kid when that happens to you again. Like, you're like, what the hell is happening to me? Why am I like this? That's all it is it's just triggering stuff that's happened to you in the past. So yes, you can go back and heal that, and all we do is finish that process of maybe when you were 13, your parents didn't even talk to you about their divorce. They didn't let you grieve it, cry about it. They didn't explain it, you know, so it's trapped in your body because you were told that you're a boy and you shouldn't be upset, you should be tough. Now that's still trapped in your body. So that's all we do, is we go back and release all those trapped things that are still causing the flashbacks, the anxiousness in your body and stuff like that. Oh, we've got a comment there.
So the comment says, for everybody just listening, hi guys, just wondering what steps can you take to receive this sort of treatment? Obviously, I'm in Melbourne, so I'm asking because I'm just wanting to, if everyone can access this sort of thing. Thanks.
Oh, yeah. So that's a good segue into like what we do now at the Centre for Healing, because
awesome.
Yeah, we actually, after Ryan and I did it 4.5, 5 years, and we're running these addiction programs, and we had the girls working for us. We helped so many people. Ryan and I had a baby as well, and then we kind of got burnt out. And our words are, we need to isolate, and we need to like, I know this is like December 2019, but November 2019, we need to isolate. What the fuck, you know? And so then we packed up the centre, which was in near bloody hell, I can't remember
Cheltenham.
where. Cheltenham. Thanks for reminding me where we were. Anyway, we shut that down. But what we've done in the meantime is I decided that, because Ryan and I purpose is to change the face of mental health and addiction. And to do that, we decided to train practitioners in how to run these addiction programs. We trained them in the method that we created that has been amazing for people. So if they go to our website, we actually have practitioners all around the world now. So we do have some in Melbourne, some that work in person, and some online as well. But literally, we have practitioners all around the world, which is like amazing, I think, in 1 year. And so if you go to the centreforhealing.com.au and click find a healer, then you'll be able to find one in your area for that comment. Yeah.
Yeah, wow. How crazy is that? So I want to get into that a little bit, but we just got another comment.
Yeah.
Complex PTSD here, intrusive thoughts daily. Is that something that you see a lot, like through the time that you've been working with people?
Yeah, totally. So yeah, in mental health, I mean, CPTSD, so you're looking at someone that's experienced ongoing traumatic experiences. So it wasn't just one thing, it was like an ongoing thing. And so the body can't handle that. And every day it is trying to heal. Every day your subconscious is putting those intrusive thoughts into your consciousness because it's actually saying you need to heal this, you need to heal this, it's affecting you. So it's making it it's trying to make you aware of that to work on it. And so the mind wants to heal every day. So to either do that through creating more trauma, the same experiences to try and get it out of you, or you can start working on it. And I just want to let you know that you can actually overcome those intrusive thoughts if you start letting yourself feel and finish processing that fear that's in your nervous system. You can definitely do it either yourself or with the help of someone to help you in that container to guide you safely. Yeah.
Yeah, it's really interesting because I read that book, which I'm sure you've probably read, The Body Keeps the Score. What's that guy's name? Basil or something? Is that his name? I can't remember.
Bessel van der Volk or something. Yeah, I can't even say it either. Yeah,
I always remember him as Basil. And the thing that I find really interesting about that, is when he talks about, I'm going to mess this up. I always forget alphabet soup. Is it MD, what's the eye movement one? What's it called again?
EMDR.
EMDR. I know what it is, but I get the letters muddled up all the time.
That's okay. I probably said it wrong too. I've had some people abuse me about that. I'm like, shut up. Like, who cares?
So, it's really interesting. Do you kind of, because when I guess from in reading that book and the interesting stuff, when that first came out, it was seen as something a little bit alternative and weird. And now it's a lot more mainstream and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
Do you kind of see the practices that you do, like on that sort of realm, like where they're accessing kind of more dream states and just memories and stuff like that, rather than that sort of traditional way of just talking things through?
There is such a huge movement in it. Like, I'm in a mainstream therapy practitioner group on Facebook just so I can keep up to date on what they're doing there, because I'm like, you can't fight the system, you got to infiltrate it to change it.
Yeah.
So I'm like sneaking around trying to change everyone, but this has been lurking in the background. But yeah, so so many, it's so amazing because people, like, so many therapists are like, someone will post a question, how do I help this client, blah blah blah, and so many therapists now, you just got to heal the trauma. Have you looked at the trauma? Have you done EMDR? Have you looked at the trauma? And I'm just like, this is amazing. Like, there is a massive shift happening like already in mainstream, and so many people are, because it's EMDR is like studied or whatever, then it's like it's evidence based. They can get trained in that and still get insurance and stuff. So for you people that can't afford trauma healing in terms of having to pay for someone privately because it's not covered by insurance, find an EMDR therapist or psychologists in your area so you can still get it on the mental health plan, because trauma healing, like, will help you overcome your addiction not just for the short term, but for like the rest of your life, where you don't have to manage and it be a fight every day. It makes it easy. Like the amount of times I've had clients, and even a recent one, I do let a few clients still slip through, like they don't leave me alone. But like session 3, I didn't feel like drinking, but it was easy. Like how often do you hear like 12 steps or NA and they're like, I'm still an addict, it's still a battle every day? Like that's bullshit. Like start healing your traumas, trust me. However, like you do that, you'll free yourself so much, and you won't even identify yourself as an addict. You won't even think about it anymore over time. So yeah, that's
Yeah.
my passion's coming through. There we go.
No, I love it. And it's something, it's something that we, it's why we're doing this show, because I think alcohol and drugs, like, and I've said this so many times on the show so far. Sometimes I feel like I'm justifying myself, is that we're trying to come at this whole thing really objectively. But if I look at my own experience with treatment and getting better and stuff, there was all this different stuff, and I just had no knowledge about anything, and I couldn't really, find much stuff easily about other people's stories and experiences and all that sort of stuff. And I feel like that's really shifting now. But because there is so much, because there's so much different stuff, I want to talk to all the different people and hear their perspectives on it, and it's one. And I said this the other day, maybe it's just the people that we're talking to, but it's something that I'm hearing a lot, is that, people are talking about that sort of traditional 12-step stuff as, some aspects of it being super helpful. And I know some aspects of them were super helpful for me, but people are starting to talk about that all the time. Like the kind of labeling of self, is something longer term that's not helpful, it's really interesting. So have you found that with yourself and with other people, that they might have come from that sort of framework, and then they've done work with you or someone else and they've changed it, and maybe they socially drink again, or whatever you want to call it? Like have you seen that a lot?
Yeah, so usually when you get to the point where you've done a lot of healing, you will, and this is what happened to me. Like I grew up drinking. My dad was German. He is German. He passed away last year, but I was always like, it was just a part of our family life, is drinking alcohol. Like I'll be like, Dad, I'm coming up this weekend, and he'll buy me a slab of something. Like it was just our love language. I don't know. Anyway, when I like got to the point where like I started doing this healing work, and I would have a sip of alcohol and I'll be like, this doesn't feel right. This is coming from someone who's just drunk every weekend since I was like 14. If I'm like drinking and then I start getting a little bit tipsy, but I don't feel tipsy anymore because I'm already at the level that the alcohol used to take me, then I don't even feel like I need it anymore or want it anymore. I know I've even tried to force myself to have like a mojito or something, and I'm just like said to Ryan, don't let me do that again. Like it doesn't do anything anymore. Like it just makes me feel shit now. So it's not even a question. So people usually come and say, I'm an alcoholic, but I would like to have some like a social drink here and there. That's my goal. I'm like, okay, whatever. And when we get to that point, they're like, oh, like I don't need it. But in relation to the 12-step program and just about the identity thing, because I think getting any help is amazing, and I don't want to I don't want to put any other therapies down or ways, because it's incredible. It's helped so many people. But yeah, that identity thing I think needs to kind of change, because that's something that we find, or that we found in the clinic, is that if you have an identity that you are an addict, like even if you've stopped for ages, then you'll always have that identity, and the relapse rate is so high because it's a huge chunk of who you are. So we actually do muscle testing to check the subconscious and find out what beliefs people have in their subconscious, and that could be.
So how does that work? The muscle testing.
Yeah, that's a whole other thing, but that's how we are all about not making assumptions. So we check in the subconscious, which is the body as well. So muscle testing, basically the premise is, if you say my name is Melissa, because my name is Melissa, my muscles have a strong response, that's a yes. If I say my name is Peter, because it's not Peter, I have a weak response. But we have a way for people to do it themselves. So because we
Mhm.
work teletherapy. But yeah, so that's like a huge one. And once you shift that, it's like a whole layer of that is gone, where it's not even like a thought anymore.
Mhm.
It's actually a massive shift. So if you can let that part of your ego die, if you can do that yourself, that's going to be like a huge change for you. Not to say that like I am an addict anymore, just to say I am Melissa or whoever I want to be. That's going to help people so much, just being aware of that. And I can see you got a comment there. Yeah.
Yeah, so
Sorry.
we just got a question here, and I'm sorry to this
Yeah.
person if you did want your name up or whatnot, but sometimes if you comment in groups, it doesn't show the name. So my son isn't ready to make any changes. He's a drug addiction. How can I best support him? Do you want to have a stab at it first?
Yeah, we actually have a family support course if you have a look at our
Mm,
website. Because yeah, it's like you can't help someone that is not ready to change. And the
mhm,
ways that we normally go about trying to help someone to change is to guilt them, look down at them. I mean, two of the biggest drivers of addiction is guilt and shame. Like, they're already feeling it, trust me.
mm,
But if you trigger that, it just drives them more deeper into their addiction. They won't be willing to open up. So you need to have really strong boundaries and not kind of support their addiction in terms of like giving them money and stuff. But you
mm.
need to also say, I'm here for you, but I'm over here and I love you. And when you're ready, we can help you. That's
Yeah.
literally all you can do, because it has to be that click for that person. Unfortunately, sometimes it has to be a rock bottom. But if you, that's the issue. If you don't let people decide for themselves, and then they end up doing it for you and not them, they're not going to continue doing it. Yeah,
Mm,
so you have to like let them decide and be very loving and supportive from afar until they're ready. So when they are ready, then they know they can come to you to help get support for that. That's probably
mm.
the best advice that I can give. I know Ryan and Matt, who run that other course, they know a lot more about it, especially for
Mm.
ice addiction, as to what's best to do. But no one could tell me what to do. I mean, another belief that addicts has is I am a rebel. So they're
Yeah.
going to conflict with any kind of authority figure because of that, all the experiences and lack of respect for authority. So that's not the way to go about it in an authoritative way, because they would just rebel against that, even though it's detrimental to them.
Mm. So interesting, and yeah, I would probably go along the same lines. It's like I always say to people, this is probably the hardest area of doing this work, is talking to families, because families do have it the hardest. It's a natural instinct to want, whether it's your child or just someone that you love, to kind of live into their full potential and have a great life, and all that sort of stuff. And it's so heartbreaking when you're watching someone, kind of everyone around them can see them hitting the self-destruct button. But yeah, the thing that I've found time and time again, like what you said, Mel, is that you just unfortunately you can only control the controllables, and you can't control other people. And definitely not a proponent of that sort of, like, exactly what you were saying, that like tough love strategy. But there is a way to kind of put boundaries in and implement different stuff depending on the situation and depending what you can live with, that kind of helps influence rather than control,
Mm,
influence someone into making a different decision. And usually the hardest thing about that is that you have to work on yourself first
yeah,
to
yeah.
to actually be able to implement that and put it into practice, which is really counterintuitive. But the paradoxical nature of that is that by doing that, you actually help the other person. It's really strange. And I
It's
remember
such
when my mum did that with me. Yeah.
No, it's so that's like almost the most important point of this whole thing is, and what we often say to clients is, whatever you want to heal in others, whatever you want to change in others, find it and heal it in yourself. And like you said,
Mm.
you can't tell people, inspire them. So yeah, it's just so good what you just said. It's so important. Yeah.
Yeah. And for anyone listening as well, we just did a podcast the other day with this lady called Debbie, who also runs a family service. And it was just amazing to hear her talk about her experience and how she's been able to detach in the most kind of horrendous situations and all that sort of stuff. So yeah, I'd recommend people check that out as well. But as you said, there's lots of stuff, and doing a course to work on you and understand stuff is really beneficial. And someone's put that in the comments too. Strongly suggest family support. No magic solutions other than learning how to best look after you so that you can provide the best support for your loved one. 100%.
So good. Yep.
So keep dropping in your questions and comments, guys. I love talking about like this trauma subject and topic because I think it's something that's kind of coming into the vernacular a little bit more. You know, one of the things I would say to you, and I don't know whether you agree, and it's why I like having the long form conversation, because the little snapshot, when I hear it, I just think, oh, I don't know about that. But when I hear you talk about what trauma actually is and how it happens and all that stuff, I go, yeah, that's exactly what it is. So, you know, like, do you reckon like our language and the way in which we label things has to kind of change a little bit? You know, like to just kind of capture the masses a little bit more in terms of how we talk about trauma and stuff, you know, or do you think, you know, we just kind of keep rolling with what we've got and
yeah, I definitely think we should. Yeah, I definitely think we should be calling them painful experiences, or defining experiences. Like, because things like when your parents divorce, you think it's just something that happened and it gets tucked away, but then it influences every other relationship in your life going forward. So people wouldn't define that as a trauma, but we just label it that. But that will give people the wrong perception of what they should be working on or being aware of what can be influencing them in the present moment and their decisions going forward. Yeah, so I think, yeah, if we can change it to like painful experiences and things like that, that's going to help so much. Even like with addiction, I like to call it coping mechanisms, you know, because addiction, you just think of, you know, the worst addictions, whereas all of them, I don't judge any, all of them are just coping, you know. So yeah, definitely if there's a language change, then it can become more mainstream. So I do agree with that. And people can relate to it more. Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. And again, that's why I found what you said at the start in terms of your story really interesting, you know. And again, I think it's becoming more, it's kind of getting more into the mainstream. And I actually did a post about this the other day, but you know, something that I realized in my kind of story is that it's been really cool. I've been able to do a lot of like media and stuff around my story, but at times I didn't actually realize that I was like perpetuating stigma. Even though I was kind of telling like my truth and my story and what I believed at the time, I was referring to myself as an addict and only telling the really kind of like horrific stories. And then of course, like the media would just grab that part of it. And you know, I didn't realize, but what it was actually doing was, yeah, like perpetuating stigma more, because it kind of just reaffirms what like a drug user is. And, you know, they're just these dirty, filthy, you know, gutter rats and, you know, all this stuff. And it's just not true. And like we've been talking about, if you take on that belief system about yourself and think that's what you are, then that's what you are, isn't it? So yeah, it's so interesting. And I think, you know, that's definitely where I had my resistance around it in the past when people were talking about trauma and stuff like that. You know, which is completely valid, but I would just automatically think of those horrific traumas, which I didn't have a lot of, you know, and it just blocked me from being able to work on the stuff that mattered. Yeah.
Totally. I just see if I got my chart here, because we used to actually run seminars and we'd like invite people, because we did specialize in ice addiction. And so we would bring up this chart, and I don't know if it's back to front for people, but basically it's a scale of consciousness. Oh, okay.
There we go.
yeah,
Hold it up
awesome.
now.
Yeah. And probably better to share my screen. I hope that's okay. Oh,
Yep.
okay.
Yep.
So basically, it's all our emotions. So the heaviest emotions are down here. So you've got shame, guilt, apathy, grief, fear. They go across this way. These are the
Yep.
lower vibration emotions. So here, desire is craving. Um, life is disappointing. And so this is all the negative emotions that we feel and that we build up as baggage. So if you say emotional baggage, like I've got baggage from my past relationship, usually people can relate to that. And so all of that built up, right? And then you've got these positive emotions. So you've got courage, neutrality, willingness, love. We're all trying to feel peace and love and joy. That's why we do anything. That's why we went to uni, get a job. We're just trying to feel okay, right? And so what happens is when we have a build-up of all these like lower emotions from over time from our life, then what happens is when we take a drug, it momentarily just covers that up, which also stops the negative thoughts and everything momentarily, and we get a little taste of feeling amazing, right? But then when you stop using the drug or whatever coping mechanism, bang, it all comes back again, or it can get triggered. And then what do with our brain goes, what did I do last time to feel good? And it automatically goes to that old behavior that worked, that took us back up there, and bang, that gets covered up again. And so maybe that can help people a little bit to understand from the emotional point of view and where our thoughts and behaviors are coming from. Why, if it's fucking up my life, why do I keep going back? Well, you're just trying to feel good. And your brain has a program to kind of induce that, for that, to take that behavior, to take that action, to do that. So the point of any therapy or healing should be to start releasing all this baggage that we built up over our lives from when we were born, and to start naturally being up here, so we can naturally not feel like we need to use to be up there, basically. So yeah,
No,
that's
I love that. I love that. So that's how you guys started and did a lot of stuff around here in Melbourne with the Centre of Healing. And as you mentioned before, now you kind of train practitioners in this method. But what inspired you to write the newest book, the Natural High? I know you talked about it a little bit earlier, but yeah, what inspired you to do that? Because it's quite a time investment, I imagine, writing a book.
Yeah, it is, especially when you have a business and a toddler running around. And I left my book over where I was sitting before, but I can go grab it. But yeah, so basically I did start writing it only a year or two after we opened the center, because I'm like, I want to write a book that I wish my younger self had, that was like freaking clueless, that was just letting her behaviors and her whims of trying to feel good run her life. What would have she needed to know, or what patterns would she need to become aware of that were happening in her life, and why were they happening? And so the natural high was for my younger self that was chasing those highs constantly to the detriment of other areas of her life. And it's teaching people to basically learn that it's okay not to feel okay, how to get a high naturally, how to become aware of your shit, basically, so you can start changing these things. Like, when you have those things like, why does this keep happening, why does this keep happening to me? It's like becoming aware of that why, and breaking those cycles. Why am I broke at the end of every week? Why do I keep attracting the same kind of people? Why do I keep going to the shit jobs? Like, all those whys, and it's kind of waking people up. So when I first went to write it, it was literally, I just had A4 pieces of paper on the table, and I was just brain dumping. I was just like, okay, I need to write this and that and that. And I didn't have like a publisher or a coach or anything. I've just basically done it all myself, even the cover. It's not like perfect. I did get an editor to go through and like, because my spelling isn't the best sometimes. But yeah, it's like I took that imperfect action, because I'm like, especially because we weren't running the addiction programs anymore, and I'm like, I think people still need to have access to this knowledge. And the book is really made for people who aren't into this work yet, who aren't really into the change, ready to like go get therapy, that aren't ready to start looking at their shit. This is like it's an easy read. It's a short read. It's just a starting point for people just to start awakening to their potential, and just starting to understand themselves a little bit. So I finally finished it last year, and had such an amazing response and sold so many copies, and it's just been incredible. And I've had people just reach out and say, how you explain that just made it so simple. I think I'm all about simplifying things for people, and speaking. And I think you're picking up on that, aren't you? Yeah, it just comes from my street background. It's like, why do you have to make it sound so complex and all fancy and smart? Just say what it is. You know what I mean? So it's very easy to read, and stuff like that. So yeah, I'm so excited that I got it out there, and I hope it's already helped a lot of people. And yeah, that's awesome. It. The natural high. So it's the hang on, can I just grab it because I left it. Okay, one second.
No worries. No worries. So I hope everyone can hear while Mel's just grabbing that. And she's back. But yeah, we've got a couple more questions here which we'll answer. I like doing these new live shows because it's kind of interaction, and it's good. We can kind of catch it in real time. I'll put them up in a second. But yeah, show us the book, Mel. Sorry.
That's okay. Is this the right way around?
Yep.
So the natural high, so secrets to overcoming instant gratification and finding inner peace. So we've got the back here. So I'll read it. So the common goal for most people is to strive for a constant state of happiness. And that's what society's told us to do. But what if this is actually unobtainable and is the reason why we keep having more people suffer from depression and anxiety than ever before? The natural high takes you on a journey to discover how to overcome our compulsions and instant gratification to come to a place where we can be effortlessly at peace yet driven without substances. So, this comes from taking thousands of people through sessions. Hundreds of people through thousands of sessions. And it has a lot of my stories in here as well, and actually some traumas that I've healed scattered through there as well, which some people can relate to as well, especially with the toxic relationships has been a big one for me. Obviously I'm with the most amazing man now. I feel blessed every day, and I tell him that, with Ryan, I feel so lucky, and I know it's a testament to all the work that I've done on myself that I could actually feel comfortable in a good relationship. When we grow up in toxic relationships and have them, then when we get someone nice come along, we fuck it up, we sabotage it because it doesn't feel right, it doesn't feel comfortable. So all of that stuff, that's all in here.
Love it.
Thank you.
So everybody go and grab a copy. Hey, that was a fantastic interview. We'll finish with a couple of questions. So if anyone has any others, please drop them in. I've got one here for you. I think this was in relation to the conversation that we were having before. Interested to hear if Mel has experience with 12-step program and her views on other addicts helping other addicts to recover compared to the therapeutic work of healing traumatic experiences in our life.
I haven't experienced it myself, Heath. I've had clients that have, and they got so much out of it, and some of them have still gone, but to support their peers. There's actually a book out that you might be interested called The 12 Steps, and it says the 12 steps with and healing trauma or something like that, because I think the 5th step, and correct me if I'm wrong, actually you go into starting to look at that stuff. But some sponsors aren't trauma informed, and it can sometimes make it a little bit worse. We are people that overcome our addictions and have helped people with their addictions. So I'm all about it. I think if you've got that lived experience, you can hold space so well for those people. And a lot of people that do become sponsors end up becoming counselors and stuff like that. So I think it's great, but I think there's a point of which you've got to sort of break out of that identity and actually start living your purpose, and start living for yourself. So yeah.
Awesome.
If that helps.
Awesome. So where can I buy the book, please?
Good question. So you can actually find it on most online retailers. So if you want to buy it, a copy from our website, it's the centerforhealing.com.au, and you just scroll down to the bottom of the page. Or you can go to Amazon, or you can go to Booktopia, or they're on Apple iBooks. It's on Apple iBooks as well. But yeah, the best place is our website, because you can get the instant ebook, or you can get this delivered to you, and it's pretty quick in Australia as well if you're in Australia to get that shipped to you. So the centerforhealing.com.au, and scroll down.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, thanks again. If anyone has any comments or questions, jump them in real quick. But just before we go, yeah, thanks so much, Mel. It's awesome. As I said, over the years of watching different stuff on Facebook, I've seen a lot of rhyme, but it was good to finally kind of get your story and hear all of that stuff. So it's pretty cool. And suggest that if anything that Mel has said has resonated, like just reach out and get in touch with them and get in contact. And it's just awesome to have the conversation. And I've been loving, doing these conversations with everybody and just getting all the different perspectives, because that's the biggest thing that I've found, is that you kind of need to meet people where they're at, don't you?
That's
and if
it.
someone's looking for answers, not every one person's the same. So, if you don't know what's out there, you just,
and that's probably like a really good way to end it, is like, not everything is going to resonate with you, and you've got to like look at different things, because different things work for different people. But don't stop looking, like don't give up. You will find something, and you'll just feel it, and you'll be like, okay, this is it. So yeah.
Love it. So that was Mel. Everything about what she does and the work she does is at the centerforhealing.com.au, is it?
Yep.
I might actually, let me just see if I can post this in the comments right now. I think I can. I'll put it in. And everybody listening, we're going to actually move all our podcasts and stuff like that into this format. I think it's really interesting. So stay tuned for the different posts that we make. We're going to schedule all the interviews that we have, but then they'll also be available pre-recorded on the podcast as well. We would love for people to jump on and keep asking questions and spread the word with it. Thanks everyone. Have a good day, and we'll see you tomorrow, where we're talking with the Are You Conscious boys about meditation and stuff like that. So that'll be cool.
Ooh.
All right. Thanks, Mel.
Thanks. See ya.
Bye.